One of the most recent integrations to SmartSuite is EasyPortal, which provides a front-end integration experience to SmartSuite and displaying that information to external audiences like clients or prospects or contractors. Hi, this is Dan Lehman from AutomationHelpers.com, a SmartSuite implementation partner. Now, EasyPortal recently rebranded their website, which I'm loving because the old logo was very similar to SmartSuite's, and so I love that they're developing their own brand identity behind this. But as you go on the website, you can see that this is very clearly purpose-built for SmartSuite. So at this point in time, they're not connecting to several different data sources. They're really focused on SmartSuite, which I think makes this a really exciting proposition to be able to use as a SmartSuite client. So we can click on the call to action here to start building portals. That's going to give us the ability to sign up or sign in. The nice part here is that similar to Airtable's OAuth, we can actually authenticate with SmartSuite. So you can say continue with SmartSuite, and that's going to allow you to connect with the same account that you're using via SmartSuite. We're using Gmail authentication in this case, so I'll plug in my credential and we will sign in. Now from here, we have a variety of templates across the top. In this video, I actually want to create something from scratch, just so you get a little bit of flavor of what it's like to build something fresh. We're going to click on a new portal. And right away, the speed and performance is great here. You'll notice off the bat that we're seeing some content that's static in nature, meaning this is great for your homepage of a website or an About Us page or a contact page. With static data comes static blocks. And so if we can insert different blocks, we have lots of different ones to choose from. And the static ones are ones that are not pulling from your SmartSuite data. This is your H1s on a page and your banners and your content and things like that. What I find as we click on these that they have pretty good configuration options that we're able to see features. I could add multiple features to this list. In the bulk of today's video, we're going to focus on the data that's coming from SmartSuite. We're not going to talk about how to build the most beautiful landing page. While that's important, I think a lot of people are really focused on how do we get at that information that's coming from SmartSuite. Before we dive in deep, let's take a look at our settings here. We're going to come into settings and choose general because you're going to get this name of blank portal, and that's not very helpful. So let's go ahead and call this, we'll call it page demo in this case. And this is where we have a subdomain. This is just automatically generated. Now you can add your own custom domain here. It's easy to get started with a subdomain, but you might want to relabel this to something that's more meaningful. So I'll call mine AH demo. And EasyPortal does give you the option to turn off the branding. They have a little badge that displays, which is great that they're allowing you to turn that on or off. So we'll keep it on for now. We'll go ahead and press save here for our general settings. Now at this point, we want to manage our data sources here because this is ultimately where we're saying we're pulling from SmartSuite. Well, what do we connect to in SmartSuite? So let's add a data source. And here we're going to have to authenticate again. So we're going to do the same thing we did as when we logged in. So with our data sources, now when we're configuring our tables, we'll be able to authenticate and we'll be able to choose from our available workspaces and apps that we're using. In the previous videos I did on building a client portal in SmartSuite, I already had some demo data set up. We're using a project management example, and we've got invoices for our clients to be able to look at. I'm going to use the exact same data set here to keep some consistency. I'm looking at invoices, and in addition to invoices, we'll also be taking a look at some tasks that we want to make available to our client to have some shared visibility around. So we're calling this our project management demo. Now, if I head back into EasyPortal, let's go ahead and create some pages so we can start to connect this together. Up at the top, we've got the option for pages. There's already one that defaults to table, so presumably we can just retitle this. Let's actually go ahead and do that. If we click and we change that to settings, we click on general, tables too generic for us, so I'm going to call this invoices. And then we can change that URL structure, so it'll be /invoices at the end. There's some SEO settings that we can do manually here as well. We'll go ahead and save that. So now that'll make a little bit more sense that we've got invoices. And while we're at it, let's just create another page too for our tasks. We'll call this one tasks. There we go. And we'll save that. Now, presumably you'll want to make it easy for the end user to be able to click to those relevant pages. So you see we've got our navigation bar up at the top here. Let's head to our home page and we can modify this. So this icon says this is displayed for non-logged in users. In this case, we only want to display the tasks and invoices for people who are logged in. We don't want to make that publicly available. Let's click on this navigation here. We'll go down to the menu, and here's where we can say, let's relabel this. So instead of table, we'll call this invoices. And then we're going to have it open up our invoices page. Let's add another one here, and we will call this one our tasks. And our tasks will add an action. And you notice that right off the bat, we have two actions. We can open an external URL that's not part of what we're doing in EasyPortal. We're going to open up a page, and this will point us to our tasks page. Now, anytime that you make these changes and you want them to be accessible to people as they actually log into the portal, you're going to want to make sure that you publish those changes. You can also preview things before you publish, but publish is going to make it what actually goes live to everybody. So we've published that, so that'll reflect our new navigation settings here. Let's go ahead and click on our invoices page, and you'll notice that there's already a table block here for us because this page was called table before, but we could add multiple different blocks here. Just to give you a little bit of context, we saw that there are lots of different static blocks. The dynamic blocks are coming. We can see that we've got a table. They've worked hard on a calendar and a card view. So if you've been using EasyPortal in the past few months, there's been a lot of progress here, but I still think there's a ways to go in terms of some of the dynamic blocks that people will be looking for. Here we have our table, and this is where we're going to select that data source. So we already authenticated. We'll click on that data source, and here's where I can choose my workspace. Once we've chosen our workspace, we can choose our solution. So I'm going to find the one for project management demo. And then we can choose our application. In this case, we're choosing from the invoices. And you can see the different apps that correspond to what we have across the top in our project management demo. Let's go ahead and choose invoices. And EasyPortal's take on this is basically that you configure the views inside of SmartSuite, and then they render that to the page inside of EasyPortal. In this case, what I did is on my invoices, instead of just having my grid view, I created what I called an EasyPortal view. So it's easy for me to recognize what data is going to get exposed over there. In my EasyPortal view, I took off a couple of fields. Now, why did I do that? Well, I ultimately don't really need to have an assign to and a client field because the client who's logged in is only going to see their information. We don't need those extra fields. So I just went ahead and created this EasyPortal view. Now, if we pivot back over to EasyPortal, we can select that view, and that's going to govern what fields display here. We can say how many display per page, how many items per page. This can help with performance issues if we limit that down and paginate it instead. And this is where we're going to filter the content for the logged in user. But you'll notice if I click that button, the portal doesn't have any users yet. We have to add them via the users tab. This is a little bit confusing because there's a couple of things that might indicate users. One in the upper right-hand corner says all users, but this is just so that we can preview it as the right experience. This is actually over on the left-hand side is the users. If we click on this, we need to select a data source, something that we sync back to in SmartSuite to be our users. Let's go ahead and select a data source. And this again is going to walk us through the process of choosing our data source. And then finally, we're choosing from our solution again. Now, this is nice because we might have a solution that stores our users table, which is different than the solution that's storing the data, such as the invoices or the tasks. I like the flexibility. It is kind of a lot of clicks, though, as we're getting started here. But let me find the one for that project management demo. And then what I've done here is that you're going to want to have a dedicated table for the people that you want accessing your portal. Think of them like a contacts table that you might create. In this case, I called mine guest access, and we would add all of the individuals here. Now, this is different than SmartSuite's users. We're not adding them as users because part of the value proposition of EasyPortal is that you're not paying for a license for each and every single person. Instead, these users are really contacts inside of SmartSuite, and then we're giving them access via EasyPortal. So you'll want to create a table, whether you call it contacts or guest access or EasyPortal, whatever you want to call that, that's going to determine who gets access inside of EasyPortal. From here, we're going to choose our guest access table. And then that view, we just have a default grid view. And this is where we do a little bit of mapping. We say, hey, we need our email, and we've got a name as our full name field, which is great that full name is supported inside of EasyPortal. We have a group field, and what this allows us to be able to do is click on an element, go to the visibility settings, and now we've got these groups here. So we could say if the user is an admin or a client or a consultant, these are the individuals who have the ability to see that based on a custom group that we assign the users. And then we can add additional fields. At this point, I don't think it's really doing any conditional logic or checking against that, but my guess is that's a future feature on the horizon. Let's save this. And when we do, very quickly, it populates our table here. So we've got our Greg guest contact that we added, who is now a user of EasyPortal. And we can add a magic link here. This is one way that we can do authentication. This is pretty slick. I'll show you how that works in a moment. But if you're familiar with Softer, it's going to feel very similar to how Softer works with Airtable. So now we have our users. Let's head back to our invoices page again, because if you remember, we wanted to filter this to the logged in user. Well, now that we've set up our users table, we have that ability to do so. We can click on the field and we can say, hey, let's only show it the relevant invoices for that client. If we go back inside of SmartSuite here and we click on invoices, now what I've done is I've created a new field, and this is a linked record relationship. So we're linking to that guest access table. I'm calling this client in the process, but that's linking to that guest access app. And so I've chosen Greg here. Now I've taken 3 of these records and assigned them to Greg and left 1 without an assignee just to show how we can filter those results down so Greg can only see his information. If I come back into EasyPortal, he's not going to see in this view that it's assigned to him because it's not relevant. He's only going to see the things that are assigned to him. So inside of EasyPortal, we can add some empty state text, like if someone didn't have any invoices for them, what do we want that to display? We also can configure our content here. So let's change this to invoices, and maybe I'll just remove our subtitle right here. Here's where we could add some inline filters, but it's a little bit limited right now. We don't see other fields available to us. We just see that title field. So I'd expect in the future that we could have it filter on statuses or other fields as well. We can add summary options here, such as displaying the amount, the total amount of invoices. That's a really helpful feature. And then we can choose which fields to display. So by default, they're coming in from the view that we've selected. But in that view, if there's a field we didn't want to display, we could then go ahead and hide one of those fields. We can also enable that when we're sorting. Now, I got to be honest, one of the things that's throwing me off still a little bit, I've seen a lot of improvements so far in terms of the field support and availability. But as I continue to experiment, I'm still bumping into certain fields that are not working. So I've had some instances of formulas not working. I've got a net 15 formula where I'd expect that it would render a date, and it's showing object. And we've got those invoices that are attached, which are the files and images fields inside of SmartSuite. So there's going to be some work here. Again, they were recently in a closed beta and they're opening this up. So they're very responsive, and we expect that there'll be some quick changes to make this a little bit more functional here. But as you can see, there are a couple kinks that need to get worked out in the system. So let's publish this and take a look. We'll go ahead and publish those updates. And if I head back into my users, I want to view it as Greg. So we're actually going to copy this magic link, which is going to impersonate his user, which I love. It's really easy access. Might be other ways you want to handle authentication if you want to focus a little bit more on the security side, but really easy to be able to get started with magic links. Greg, when he logs in, is going to see, here's our homepage. And then because he's logged in as a user, he's going to see those invoice and tasks. Let's click on invoices here. And this is where Greg sees his 3 invoices, because you remember back inside of SmartSuite, there were actually 4 invoices, but he wasn't assigned to one. So this is all functional. He's able to see his invoices specifically. But again, we've got those couple of fields that we need some work on here to be able to view all of that information contextually. So this gives us a flavor of an app like Invoices, which is pretty much read-only data. We want to be able to share that information with our client, but we don't need them to perform any kind of actions on it. But what about data that we do need to be actionable, such as tasks? We want our clients to be able to create tasks for us to be able to interact with them. That's why we created that tasks page. Let's go ahead and click over there. And remember, this is just empty for now. So we're going to want to add a block. And this time, instead of a dynamic block for a table, let's go ahead and choose a card view instead. So we've got that one card view that we're going to take a look at. We've got our data source. This time we're choosing from our tasks app. And we have a view that we created for these cards, EasyPortal task cards. If I take a look at that again inside of SmartSuite, I just created this the way I want it to look anyways. So we've got our card, and we've got information with the status, the owner, which is a SmartSuite user, the client, which is that Greg guest, who again is the guest access, what we're doing with the EasyPortal users table. So I've got this looking the way I want, which makes it easy to then be able to set up. And we can see that those blocks are looking pretty good, those individual cards. Now, the one thing that you'll notice here is that you can't filter the content for the logged in user yet for this view. So this restricts us a little bit because in most cases, we're going to be wanting to filter that information. Because I have tasks, right now, I don't have the ability to filter on Greg, which means that Greg can see all of the tasks that I have in the system. So I imagine that this feature will be coming soon. But the other issue here is when we create actions, let's turn on the feature to create a record. We'll enable that. Look how easy that is. So now you can create a record. Let's make this more specific. Let's call it create task. And we can change that content at the top again to say tasks or my tasks or however we want to take a look at that. I'm going to remove that subtitle again. And back in the actions, this is where we've got the functionality to create a record. We can edit a record. So maybe we'll turn that on as well to edit that individual record. And then we can delete records if we want to enable that functionality. So I like that we've got our CRUD options that we can create and delete and edit those tasks. The problem that I see right now is that we are limited in terms of the types of fields that we have. Presumably, if we're doing this project management use case, we have tasks that are related to a project, and we have tasks that are related to our EasyPortal user. We need these linked relationships. That's really dependent on linked relationships in database type applications like SmartSuite is. So at this point in time, I don't have the ability to say, hey, when I create this task, have a link to the project and make sure that we link the task to the project, nor do I have the ability to say, link it to this user or this is the owner of it. So our hands are a little bit tied. I like the direction this is going. The UI is really nice, but I will be really interested to see when we get that full functionality. So let me publish this and we can see what this looks like inside of EasyPortal. We'll go ahead and refresh it. We'll open up our tasks here. We can see this looks great. It looks very similar to the card view that we have inside of SmartSuite. We've got our button up here to be able to create a task. I can create it, and this is where we can input that information. We've got our status. I love how they're treating the adding times and the due date functionality. It's got our date picker. So the fields that it's supporting looks great. And the second that we have full support of some of the really important fields like the linked records, I think this feature is going to be awesome. If you have any questions on getting up and running with EasyPortal or SmartSuite, don't hesitate to reach out to our website at automationhelpers.com, where we're offering a free 30-minute consultation.